Have you ever thought being a gladiator was just about swinging swords in epic slow motion while crowds cheered your name? Well, forget everything Hollywood told you, because behind that shiny armor, behind those dramatic speeches, was a daily routine so brutal, so humiliating, and so downright exhausting, it would make even the toughest personal trainer cry. Welcome to the Ludus Gladiatorius Gladiator School, not a school where you learn history, a school where you became history. Imagine a boot camp where failure didn't mean a bad grade. It meant bleeding in the sand while people bet on your odds of survival. Sounds fun, right? And yet, this was the dream for thousands of men in ancient Rome. Or rather, their nightmare. Because gladiator school wasn't just about combat. It was about breaking your body, controlling your mind, and preparing you to die in style. So buckle your sandals and hold onto your togas because we're diving deep into the blood-soaked world of Rome's most dangerous profession. First things first. Who exactly were these gladiators? You might picture chiseled warriors shouting, "Strength and honor," but the truth is way messier. Most gladiators were enslaved people, prisoners of war, criminals, or anyone the empire deemed disposable. But plot twist, some actually volunteered. Yep, free citizens signed contracts to become gladiators in exchange for fame, food, and the faint hope of freedom. These voluntary fighters were called auctorati, and while they were looked down upon socially, they could earn serious glory in the arena. All new recruits, voluntary or not, were sent to training camps called ludi. These weren't just training grounds, they were part prison, part death prep center, and part ancient UFC gym with zero air conditioning. The most famous of these was the Ludus Magnus, located conveniently next to the Colosseum. That's right. If you made it big, you wouldn't even need a horse to get to your doom. Now let's talk routine. A gladiator's day began well before the sun came up. No snooze button, no oat milk latte, just a horn blast, barking orders, and a bowl of barley porridge so bland it made prison food look gourmet. This high-carb, low-protein diet wasn't about taste. It was strategic. The extra body fat helped protect vital organs from slashes and stabs. Sexy, right? After breakfast, it was straight to training. We're talking grueling drills in full sun, running in sand, lifting weights made of stone, wrestling drills, and sparring with wooden swords called rudis, which, by the way, were heavier than actual weapons. Why? Because Rome wanted you slow, tired, and overtrained. This wasn't about agility. This was about turning your muscles into meat shields. Trainers, called doctores, were often retired gladiators themselves, meaning they knew exactly how to push you to the brink. And if you thought skipping practice was an option, think again. Disobedience wasn't punished with detention. It was punished with lashes, starvation, or time in a dark, rat-infested cell. In short, show up, shut up, and train until you drop. But it didn't stop there. Injuries were part of the daily grind. Broken ribs, sprained ankles, concussions, these weren't occasional, they were expected. Yet surprisingly, gladiators received some of the best medical care in Rome. Why? Because they were investments. A good gladiator could bring in a fortune in ticket sales, so trainers and medici, ancient doctors, used everything from scalpels to hot irons to patch up their fighters. Techniques like bone setting, suturing, and even early forms of surgery were common. That said, it wasn't exactly sanitary. They'd clean wounds with wine or vinegar and stitch you up with gut string. No anesthesia, of course. Just grit your teeth and hope you pass out. And if you got infected, well, fingers crossed. But if you survived, you were back on the training field the next morning. No excuses, no sick days, just pain and more porridge. Now let's talk hierarchy. Gladiators were ranked based on experience and fighting style. There were murmillos with heavy armor and big shields, retiari with nets and tridents, and threeses with curved swords and funky helmets. You didn't choose your style. It was assigned, often based on your body type or just the mood of your trainer. And yes, rivalries were common. Gladiators lived in tight quarters, trained together, ate together, and knew that one day they might face each other in the arena. That built a strange mix of brotherhood and betrayal. And remember, Most of them didn't want to kill their opponent. The goal was to put on a show, not rack up body counts. Killing your opponent too quickly could actually upset the crowd. No drama, no cheers. No cheers, no chance of survival. It was a cruel paradox. Fight hard enough to win, but not so hard you ruin the entertainment. Now let's bust a few myths. First, that iconic thumbs up, thumbs down decision, completely made up. Ancient sources suggest the crowd or emperor used gestures like closed fists or open palms, and it wasn't always the emperor who made the call. It was often the event organizer. Second, not every match ended in death. In fact, the majority didn't. Gladiators were expensive, and a good fighter could return for dozens of matches. Third, forget the six-pack abs. Gladiators were often bulky and thick around the waist. Not because they skipped leg day, but because more fat meant better chances of surviving a gut wound. So next time someone says, "I want a gladiator body," just smile and hand them a bowl of barley. It's historically accurate. But here's the kicker. Gladiator schools weren't just about training killers, they were tools of control. Bred in circuses, remember? The more Rome fed the people with spectacle, the less they questioned their oppression. Gladiator fights were a distraction, a political sedative disguised as entertainment. The emperor didn't just give the people blood. He gave them a sense of power, letting them cheer, boo, and decide the fate of a man with a thumbs-up illusion. Gladiator schools were the factory, and the arena was the stage. Behind it all was a brutal system that crushed individuality and turned survival into spectacle. Sound familiar? Reality TV, social media flame wars, influencer boxing matches. We still crave spectacle. We just swapped the sandpit for screens. The question is, are we really that different? So would you survive gladiator school? Think about it. Could you handle the starvation, the training, the trauma, the pressure of death being entertainment? Most couldn't. And yet, some did. Some rose through the ranks, gained fans, won their freedom, and became legends. But for every Spartacus, there were 100 nameless men who fell in the sand, uncelebrated and forgotten. Their stories may be lost, but their pain built the myth. And now you know the truth behind that myth. If this blew your mind, wait until next time when we explore how the Romans used wild animals, lions, elephants, crocodiles in the arena, and who actually won those fights. Spoiler, it wasn't the audience. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us what part of Gladiator School you would fail at first. My bet? The breakfast.